You ever wonder how some fortunes, the ones built over a whole lifetime, just vanish, like overnight? Well, it's usually not this slow, gradual thing. It's a sudden, catastrophic collapse. So today, we're going to break down the biggest and honestly, the most avoidable mistakes that can completely wipe you out. Let's dive in.
All right, so we've all heard the saying, right? That in a crisis, it's the prepared who come out on top. It's that moment when having a solid plan really, really pays off.
Okay, but what about the flip side of that? I'm talking about the financial landmines, the mistakes that don't just cause a little setback, but take you completely out of the game for good. And here's something most people get wrong. They think wealth just kind of erodes, bit by bit over a long time. But the reality? Oh, it's usually way more dramatic than that. No, they lose it suddenly, like in an instant. It can be just one bad decision, a single moment of getting a little too cocky, and poof, the whole thing unravels. So, what are these huge mistakes we're talking about? Okay, first up is probably the most human trap of them all, letting your emotions call the shots. Seriously, when it comes to your money, your own feelings can be your absolute worst enemy. And this quote, it just nails it, doesn't it? Fear and greed. Think about it. These two massive forces are always there, pulling you in opposite directions and, more often than not, yanking you way off course from any kind of rational plan. So, what exactly is emotional investing? Well, it's basically when the market's crazy ups and downs start dictating your every move. Instead of just sticking to your long-term game plan, you start reacting to all the headlines, all the noise. And that's when you start doing the exact opposite of what you should be doing. I mean, just look at this list. I've had some of these feel familiar. We've all felt that knot in our stomach during a market plunge, that urge to just sell everything. Or at that FOMO, that fear of missing out, that makes you chase some hot stock way too late. These aren't calculated moves. They're gut reactions, pure emotion. All right, so it's not just about emotions. Your wealth can get wiped out by, well, fundamental flaws in how it's all put together. Think of it like trying to build a giant skyscraper on a foundation of sand. It's just not going to work. So, a classic example of a bad structure, putting all your eggs in one basket. Yeah, concentration can feel bold and decisive, right? Like you're making this big, confident bet. But really, it's diversification that's all about survival. It's about admitting, hey, I'm not going to get every single pick right, and instead building a system that protects you when one of those picks goes horribly wrong. And then there's the big one, over-leverage. This is when you've taken on way too much debt, especially against income or assets that are volatile or just not guaranteed. What this does is it leaves you with absolutely zero room for error. So when, not if, but when things change, there's just no cushion, no shock absorber. Man, this just says it all, doesn't it? A crisis on its own is just a thing that happens. It's the leverage, that massive pile of debt that turns a simple downturn into a total, complete wipeout. It's like pouring gasoline on a small fire. All right, this next trap is a sneaky one, and it's super, super common, especially for people who earn a high income. It's the incredibly dangerous mistake of confusing a big paycheck with actual wealth. They are not the same thing. Yeah, there's a name for this. It's called lifestyle inflation, or maybe you've heard it as lifestyle creep. It's that thing that happens where as your income goes up, so does your spending. The car gets nicer, the house gets bigger, the vacations get fancier, and pretty soon things that used to be luxuries start to feel like necessities. And this is why understanding the difference is so, so critical. Look, a high income, it's fragile. It can vanish overnight with one layoff. It depends on you, constantly working. But true wealth, that's resilient. It survives pauses. Heck, it produces its own income. It's what's there to absorb the shocks when life throws you a curveball. And hey, this isn't just some abstract idea. We can look at real-world cautionary tales. Take these famous families, for example. They had these massive fortunes that just crumbled over generations. Why? Things like family drama, bad management, and too much debt. It's proof that even huge amounts of wealth can disappear if it's not handled carefully. Okay, our last category is all about a massive blind spot in planning. It's about ignoring the risks that aren't staring you right in the face. The stuff you hope never happens, but it often does. We're talking about not having a margin of safety. What does that mean? It means there's no emergency fund for when the car breaks down or someone gets sick. It means not having the right insurance to protect you from a total disaster, or having all your money locked up in things you can't sell quickly when you need cash. Without those buffers, you're basically living on a financial knife's edge. Let me show you a risk that's so quiet you might not even notice it: inflation. So let's say you have $100 right now. Feels like $100, right? Pretty straightforward. But here's the silent killer. Fast forward just 1 decade. Assuming a pretty normal 3% inflation rate, that same $100 bill, it can only buy what about $74 buys you today. It's like a slow, constant leak in your financial boat, and you might not even see it happening. And this really brings us to what might be the ultimate risk. I mean, we all worry about a big market crash, but for most of us, this is what's truly terrifying: the slow, quiet risk that we just outlive our money. That's the real long-term danger that comes from not having a plan. So, as we bring this all together, here's the main thing to remember. Getting wiped out financially, it's rarely just bad luck. It's almost always the result of these big, avoidable mistakes: too much debt, not enough of a safety net, and letting emotions get the best of you. It really comes down to these two simple rules. It's not about trying to hit a home run every single time. The real goal, the most important goal, is just to avoid the big mistakes. Winning the long game is all about playing good defense. So that naturally brings up the next question, right? If avoiding these huge mistakes is step one, what does step two look like? What is a simple, strong financial system that can actually survive all this stuff? What does that even look like? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into next time.